I'm a son of Mr. Pesco BOPELA and Grace Mfega. Of course, she became Mrs. BOPELA. She comes also from around this area, Emakobe. And my father also was born here, grew up here. I'm the third son in the family. There are two brothers ahead of me, and one who comes after me, Anderson, and a sister who is now late, Stogo Zil. I was born in 1944. I started schooling here at Inanda Primary, in this very room where I am, in 1949. The reason why I was called THULA is because my mother expected that I was going to be a girl. And when I was born at Makot's hospital, the nurses told her that it's a boy again. So she cried. The nurses said, "Thula mama, uzoyithola intombazane." After me came another boy. And she got quite exasperated and named him Usfaniso, meaning, oh, it's just a demonstration of boys. But at the end, a daughter came and she was very happy and named her Stogozil, because we've got a girl now. I started schooling here in 1949, as I've said. My father was teaching at Ohlange High School. When she was promoted to principal in 1955, we had to move from Inanda and live at Ohlange, where I did my standard 5 and 6, right up to what was called JC, standard 9. And then after that, I went to Adams College in 1961. I didn't stay the full year there. I think I was a very naughty fellow. So my mother pulled me out before I was expelled, and I went to study in 1962 at Umphumulo. Umphumulo was then transferred to Vryheid. So I ended up finishing my matric at Vryheid High School. But because my father didn't want me to go into what were called Bantustan universities, he said I should come to Rhodesia on a temporary permit. He was hoping we would extend the permit. And then the hope was that I was going to study at the University of Rhodesia. I've always wanted to be a lawyer, but I never became one, because I suspect my grandmother on my mother's side hated lawyers. She said lawyers are trained liars who go to court and defend a criminal and get him out of trouble. So no child of hers is going to do that. I tried very hard. Even when I was in prison, I tried to study law. And the prison stopped the education. The prison superintendent said he is not in the business of training terrorists. When I came out of prison in 1980, I applied to study law at the university. It was called UBLS, University of Botswana, Swaziland, and Lesotho. And I was accepted. But just that year, the faculty of law was going to be divided because I think the Botswana wanted to, their graduates, law graduates, to finish all their 4 years training in Botswana. And the Basotho also wanted that. But the Swazis said, no, they do 2 years here at the UBLS, and they do the other 2 years in Scotland. So the law faculty had to be split. So I couldn't do law again. And then I went to study the following year at what was called the United States International University in Kenya, in Nairobi, where I obtained my first degree, BA Sociology, Anthropology. After that, I left for Holland and immediately registered. I was looking for political asylum, but it took a year to get that. Meanwhile, I registered myself at the Institute of Social Studies, where I did an MA in Development Studies. We, the ordinary foot soldiers of MK, had never been given recognition. All of it was about Mandela, Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, and we used to be mentioned now and again in speeches, but no direct recognition. So when the information came that we were going to be recognized finally as a living legend, I said to myself, really? Are you a living legend? How have you earned this? But when I sat down to write my CV, which I had just taken for granted, what I did, fighting and all those things, it began to sink into me that, yes, you have done something that is worth noting, and the eThekwini municipality is sending you that message. And I was very gratified. I was at home. I live in Pretoria, which is where I work. I have a house there. And I was phoned. I don't remember the name of the person. And he explained to me what it was all about. And then what I needed to do to send my profile. It was my grandfather, my father's father. He was a great storyteller. And the stories that he told us, see, mind you, in my family, no politics was ever discussed. Probably my father realized how dangerous it was to influence us in that direction, because politics was trouble those days. So it was all about schoolwork and no mention about what's happening in South Africa. But my grandfather used to tell us stories. We used to visit him in his room after supper. And he would tell us the Zulu wars, the Battle of Blood River. And he went into detail. So many warriors rolling across the plains, running at the river where the Afrikaners had barricaded themselves behind the wagons, spears flashing in the sun. And when they got to the river was full and almost up to the neck, which broke the speed of the Zulu army, because the Zulu army relied heavily on speed. Now, if they have to cross a river to get to their enemies, the speed would be broken. That's why they were slaughtered. The general who was commanding them, General Ndlela Kasompisi, called them out. But the damage had been done. And that's why the battle is called the Battle of Blood River, because the river turned red with blood. And then he would also tell us about the Battle of Isandlwana. And he also told us about the Bambata Rebellion. Everything. He had a fantastic memory. Even the names of the people who fought there, the generals who were commanding there. And quite without realizing it, he was radicalizing me. I don't know what impact those stories had on my other brothers, because we all listened. But with me, those stories stayed with me. And I understood that my role in life, when the time comes, was non-violent. It wasn't fighting. They used to march in Durban with placards. I'm a volunteer, wearing khakis. And I said to the other guys, well, I don't think I will get involved in this, because making speeches, in the end, you just get arrested for talking. When the ANC makes up its mind to fight, I'll volunteer. And that is what happened when I found MK fighters at the ANC office in Dar es Salaam in 1964. You know, when you decide, I told you I wanted to be a lawyer, but from the moment I saw those guys and I was told they are trained soldiers, I decided to drop the scholarship. I went to the president, O.R. Tambo, and told him that I no longer want to go to school, I want to be a soldier. And he tried to persuade me, and he explained why he didn't want me to join. He said he cannot accumulate a huge army outside South Africa without knowing how to infiltrate them back into South Africa. Most of the countries that border South Africa were not liberated. Zimbabwe had not started fighting, Angola had not started fighting, Mozambique had not started fighting, Namibia had not started fighting. You couldn't jump from Tanzania into South Africa. So he said I should go to school, meanwhile. And when the way home becomes open, then I could come and rejoin. Yes. But I said, I'm not having any of that. I want to go and fight now. If you send me to school, I won't study. I'll drink myself to the devil, I'll womanize and do drugs, and my blood will be on your hands. So it was blackmail. The president then allowed me to go and join MK. Now, almost the first thing that you need to deal with if you become a soldier is the fact that you are going to die. I was 20, and I don't think at that age it is easy to accept that. You still think that you have got about 60 years ahead of you, you must live and chase all these beautiful girls and play sport. But I had to drop that. So at 20, I had now to deal seriously with very serious things in life. Liberating a country, what is that? This thing called ANC, the ANC-ness, what is that? ANC, in my definition, is unity. Unite the blacks. That is what the leaders in 1912 said. Zulu, Msuthu, Mxhosa, hlanganani. And then also service. Serve. It's not about you now. You belong to something far greater than yourself. And at that age, I became a very serious young man. I think it had a great impact on me. In Odessa Military Academy, I trained as an artillery specialist. Now, well, we were trained in all the other weapons, the small arms, medium arms, and heavy arms, like heavy machine guns. We learned everything, explosives, radio communication, but you had a specialty, and my specialty was artillery, the big guns. The Russians call it Bog Vayna, God of War. Now, on the day we were tested the finals, we had to go to Moldavia and fire live ammunition. Now, we were told that from the moment that your target is identified and you say you have seen your target, you have 40 seconds to destroy it. And from the moment you say, I've seen my target, then they start counting. You communicate with the gun, and the gun communicates back with you and take your orders, and you direct the gun towards the target, and I did it in 38 seconds. That was my finest moment. I was top of the class. I would say that you can live your life for yourself. Let's say maybe you want to make money. It's not a crime. But if you just enjoy that wealth, you and your kids, and maybe your relatives, it's fine. But becoming a member of the liberation movement, you expand yourself. You begin to address the problems of a nation, and you contribute towards solving those problems, which is a larger thing than just doing your own thing, like getting a degree and going to work somewhere and earn money. I don't say that's wrong. I'm saying the liberation movement, the ANC, gave me a chance to become a bigger man than I was going to be if I had become a lawyer. And then also the issue of dying for a people. There are no benefits. You live from day to day, and you're fighting a powerful enemy, and you expect to die, and you accept it. Not an easy proposition. Even a man of 90, when the moment of death comes, he doesn't say, hurrah. At 20, it's even more difficult. But I managed it. In the bush, you see, when you train, all the bullets are flying in the other direction. You are firing the bullets towards that enemy, and you are throwing the grenades at the enemy. But in battle, first battle, the bullets are coming your way for the first time, and they pass very close to your head, and the enemy is moving, and it's more powerful than you. There are helicopters flying at treetop level, and there are bombs falling all around you. And if you have not dealt with the issue of dying, you're going to throw down your gun and run. I'm glad I didn't do that. I know what faces the country today or society, but whether anything can be done about it. Now, this is a national effort. What is needed is a vision. South Africans must stop talking about soccer or rugby or cricket uniting us. Sport doesn't unite people. It does so maybe for one day. The problems we sit with in this country will take more than a game of football, like the 2010 World Cup, to unite us. We need to have a South African vision. Whites, Indians, blacks, coloreds, everybody must say, we want to be this kind of country. All of us. And then we contribute on a daily basis in whatever we're doing. Like that lady we were talking to, the principal. She has a vision for this school. And she's marshalling all the efforts of her teachers to achieving this success that they have achieved here. Now, think of a nation doing that. And I've seen nations do that. The Russians. In 1917, Russia was one of the most backward countries in Europe. But several decades later, around 1952, they had become a world power. They detonated their first atomic bomb and went into an armed weapons race with America. And they've never looked back. The Chinese also. But it's not about war. It is about educating people. It is about not abusing children and women. It is about fathers looking after the children and their wives and raising a nation. And in this country, we have a particular problem with racism. Now, if you ask me what do I think should be done about it, it's an enormous undertaking. I don't know whether anybody. Madiba has talked about reconciliation. It's not happened. Bishop Tutu talks about a rainbow nation. It's a pipe dream. When I say a pipe dream, I mean it has not happened, and I don't foresee it happening. Maybe several generations from us will manage it. We lived very much like gladiators, people who know that anytime they're going to die. And because we were young, we developed very strong ties. Equality was not a theory. We were equal in the sense that we were in the same boat and we had the same enemy, and that enemy, if they were successful, would destroy all of us. And we tended to get very close to each other. It didn't matter where you came from, Eastern Cape, Northern Province, KZN, or wherever. Those things ceased to matter. And we developed, although those things were discouraged, we developed friendships. I remember a friend of mine called Alfred Sharp. That was his nom de guerre, the fighting name. He came from the Eastern Cape. We were big buddies. But we shared also this vision of a South Africa that was free. We had many debates. We read a lot of books. And we would wake up in the morning and run, 4 o'clock, every day, preparing ourselves physically for the task ahead. There wasn't time for petty activities. We drank, yes. We even smoked dacha, because every day to us was the last day. So let's have a little fun before we travel. In MK, I was a foot soldier. I've never been a commander. I fought in Wanki in 1967. I didn't distinguish myself. I just did my job like all the others, okay? Other guys ran away. They couldn't face the reality. And mind you, the Rhodesian security forces, reinforced by the SADF, were quite a formidable force. Now, if you see them running from you after a battle, you feel good. Because they are not a Mickey Mouse army. You have to be very good to make those guys turn around and run from you. And after that, you feel free inside. Yeah. That I've seen my oppressor run away from me. I hope what I've written, and I continue to write articles to inspire. My target audience are young people, not the old ones, because you probably can't do much about them. But I'm hoping when I write these things that young people will read them and pick up certain things in those writings that will contribute to make them better patriots and better men and women. For myself, there's nothing now. I just live my life the best I can, and I've raised 3 daughters. They are very successful. They have graduated, all of 3 of them. And I feel very proud about that, because I didn't get a scholarship or get the ANC to educate my children. I did it myself. And they have responded very well to those efforts. I was told by certain patrons in a keg, a place where I used to go and drink and have beer with my friend. There was this white couple who was sitting there. I greeted them on my way to the gents. When I came back, they said, "Hello, Mr. BOPELA." I said, "Hello. Who are you?" They told me, and I said, "Have we met before?" They said, "Yes, we have met you, but you haven't met us." I said, "How is that?" They said, your daughter has told us everything about you, and she's very proud of her father. And I've tried in my life to live in such a manner that I do not do things that, if they came out, would embarrass my family name, embarrass my daughters, and my friends, and my organization. No, I don't. My energies are focused on getting PSiRA to be the organization that it should be. When I took over the chairmanship in 2010, PSiRA was perennially getting a very bad financial results. And when PSiRA went to Parliament to report to the Portfolio Committee, I have been told by the Portfolio Committee members that every time PSiRA came, they knew that it's going to be bad news, disclaimers. And the Minister of Police actually told me when he appointed me that if you refuse this job, I will not press you, because I've talked to several other people and they've turned the job down. For this reason, the first chairman of PSiRA was shot. He didn't die. What saved him was that the guys were ambushing him, lay on the right-hand side, on the driver's side, but he was driving an American car. So that is what saved him. But he got 6 bullets into his body. After that, he said, no more. And when Minister Mthethwa tried to offer this job to other people, they said, no, thank you very much, but no thanks. So I said, what's the problem, Mr. Mthethwa? He said that organization is vital to South Africa the state security, because you are going to control over 4,000 security companies and over 1 million security officers armed, and they outnumber both the army and the police. And there is a lot of crime in the country and in the security industry. I want you to come and clean this up. Naturally, you'll make a lot of enemies, and maybe these enemies will make attempts on your life. I said, yes, we can't all run. Somebody has to do the job. And 2011, we got a clean audit. And this year, again, we got a clean audit. That doesn't mean that we've done everything. There's still a lot to be done. But the financial side is okay. No corruption. We deal with corruption very drastically. We don't just fire a guy, we put him in prison. In the council where I sit, there is a lady who's a deputy chair. She's a retired Major General. And there is also the head of the Hawks, General Dramat. All the people who sit in that council have a security background. And the reason being, PSiRA is a partner to the police and intelligence organizations to protect state security. Now, there isn't a lot of time to go and work in other companies and things like that. Just focus on PSiRA.